But today we're just going to focus on the education. And so would love just to hear your perspective around affirmative action.
Well, one, I'm really glad you grounded us in the definition because I've always felt like people assume affirmative action is quota.
Yeah.
Right. And so, as you start thinking about it's called affirmative action. And I think one of the things that you just really highlighted, it's about equity. Mm-hmm. It's about making sure that people have access. It is not saying that we need to make space for people who are not qualified. Mm-hmm. It is saying that we want to make sure that people who are qualified have an opportunity to get through the pipeline.
Yes.
And I think that's the nuance that is often overlooked. Mm-hmm. And I have definitely been in spaces and been in roles where people use the term affirmative action hire, affirmative action award, affirmative action opportunity, where it's like, to be here, I had to be twice as good. Mm-hmm. And so I think we don't often recognize and celebrate that. And so when we start to think about that from a schooling perspective, what I found interesting in the commentary that was highlighted is it really does hurt people of color because it doesn't say that we're going to get rid of legacy. Mm-hmm. It doesn't say that we're going to get rid of the opportunity of the fact that your family may have, made a big donation. Mm-hmm. It's saying that, hey, we're not going to make sure that we are being equitable in our application process and make sure that we are at least looking at people of color, not promising them a seat if they're not qualified. Mm-hmm. And I find that really interesting that affirmative action is used from a race perspective, yes, but not necessarily applied in a legacy or wealth or socioeconomic type of perspective.
And in my notes here, I have legacy students in quotes because I'm just like, because actually this week there has been a lawsuit towards the academies now because they weren't in that original lawsuit with Duke and Harvard, but now they are being targeted as well. And it's all about the legacy students. The students who are diverse representation, they, like you said, they had to work hard to get there. And so you have some students who didn't earn to get there, but just because their legacy, they get these opportunities. And sometimes you have legacy students who don't value that experience just because it was given to them. They don't see it the same way. It is one where this is just like, I'm empowered to have this. Mm-hmm. Really?
Yep.
That equitable process that we talked about is not in place. And so we wanted to just kind of highlight like what that is. And I was furious about it too. And then when this just happened this week about this lawsuit, parents were texting me about it like, are we serious right now? So one of the things that we have seen, this has benefited HBCUs, which is why we are representing our HBCU shirts, okay? And I loved how, presidents of these institutions were like, you will always have a place here. You will always be recognized here and seen here. And not only that, we are preparing you for this world. We are preparing you for the roles that you will have. You will have opportunities to optimize all of your skills, gifts, and talents here. And I just feel for those other institutions that and let me rephrase that. I don't want to say feel for, because some of them would like for this not to happen too, because they know that they need diverse representation in their schools and they're looking for other ways to make certain that things are more diverse. And how are they going to do that? I don't know. So I wanted to reframe that to make certain that I stated that correctly.
And I think people don't necessarily pay attention to the impact of educational decisions, how that impacts the community, and how other industries follow. And so we know with Brown versus Board of Education, that was meant to desegregate schools. In 1990, the Supreme Court ruled to kind of start to release some of the regulatory compliance around schools. It opened up school choice, which is why we now have private schools really taking storms and charter schools. Now we have this recent Supreme Court ruling that has made it, unconstitutional for race to be considered or affirmative action. And my concern with that is that usually other societal impacts follow.